because the water coming out of the ground right there, that's called an artesian well. Okay, an artesian well. They were looking for oil, and guess what?
What?
They didn't find any oil, and the water started bubbling out of the ground, and they were going to cap it, but they decided that the guy who was in the area, he bought the property, and they turned into a tourist area. People would come down and they would bathe in that stinky water, and they thought it was a health springs, mineral springs, which it is to some extent. And now the state of Florida has turned into a park. All right, I got something else to show you on our charts over here. When you talk about fossils, it's such things as, well, were you one of the kids that saw the Jurassic Park? Did
No.
you see? Well, how about that? There are people who haven't seen it. All right. The Bible, I like to say, as far as fossils, we have fossils that were before the flood, after the flood, and something at the very bottom called pre-Adamite, which would be like before Adam and Eve. That is the Christian, the way you should look at fossils. Because you see, the earth is only supposed to be something like 7,000 years old, or maybe 8,000 years old, maybe a little bit more, and yet they say such things like dinosaurs were here 35 million years ago. Well, the Bible doesn't tell us when exactly, and that's another lesson we'll get into one day. But I would like to show you some of these fossils. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you if they're before Adam and Eve, after Adam and Eve, before the flood, that's, Noah's flood, after the flood, and that's about it. Then we have some other things that occur. Now, during the times of the flood and everything, let's take a look at another chart here. We had a very interesting thing happen in the Caribbean, and it wasn't a hurricane. Do you know what the bottom part of the land is called between South America and North America is called?
No.
Okay, it's called Central America. And a piece of Central America broke off. And when it broke off, it made the Bahama Islands, it made Puerto Rico, it made all those neat things. And it's because the land shifted and moved around. Now, that can cause a lot of problems for animals. It's called, they'll drown. You see, because if a chunk of land moves off, can you imagine if Mama's on that chunk of land and Papa and the kids are stuck back in the other part? There goes Mama, drifting away. They have an actual term for that. It's called continental drift. But some people actually think that a lot of the animals, that's how they got around the world. One of the methods was continental drift. Because in the Bible, there's a guy named Peleg. You ever heard of him?
No.
Sounds like a pirate with a wooden leg, huh? Peleg. Anyway, during the Peleg's time, the world did go through separation. It was a separation of language and everything. And let's look at this next chart. One thing I like about this, you drove through Florida. Do you see any mountains?
No.
No. Do you have mountains in Canada?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. There's some beautiful mountains in western Canada. There were volcanoes in Florida. And the triangles where we found volcanic ash. Volcanic ash is where a volcano has thrown up. They throw up, you know, volcanoes do. Anyway. And then we have volcanic rock, the square, which means the black rock. And then they have lava, and lava is really the puke that comes out, you know, all over the mountain. They have found that under Florida. Now on the top, they haven't found it because Florida has been under so much water that it's gotten buried with all dead animals and sea animals and all that. But if you dig deep enough, ask me how deep.
How deep?
8,000 feet. Is that deep enough?
No.
Okay. If you go down about 8,000 feet in southern Florida area, you can actually come right upon where the ancient lava flowed and the volcanic ash and all that. Florida used to be mountains. What is left of the Florida mountains is up near northern Georgia. All those mountains have been worn down by the flood, worn down by just glaciers, ice age, and all that stuff. Let's look at the next chart. This is the backbone, you know, of the state of Florida. And there is a high area going right through the middle of Florida, and that's where that amusement area is that this man owns, and everybody goes to see. And that area is up on a high ridge. And that is why every time Florida goes underwater and comes out of water, that's still sitting there. For those people who have ever gone down to that area in Orlando, there's beautiful little rolling hills. And you can tell the hills, very easy to find, because there's orange trees. Did you happen to notice the orange trees? Probably did. You didn't come through Orlando, did you? You came down through...
We went past Orlando.
Oh, okay. Did you wave at Orlando? Did you wave?
No.
Okay, so anyway, in the Orlando area, there's little hills with orange trees all over it. Those are sand dunes. You know what a sand dune is?
No.
Okay, it's a pile of sand. You ever seen pictures of the Sahara Desert? This is one mound of sand after another.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what Orlando was. But it wasn't a desert, but it was lots and lots of sand, but it was tropical. Now let's go to the next chart. What happens is that as the water level changed in the state of Florida, you actually have animals being killed, and then the water would leave and the land would dry out. Other animals would come in, and we have no dinosaur bones and remains in Florida because there was no Florida. Illogical, huh? Now we did have swimming dinosaurs type animals, and we'll talk about that, of course, later on. All right, so the thing is, there's in your own area, no matter where you live, you go to those places, those boring places called libraries.
They're not boring.
They're not boring. Congratulations. Or you can look on the website. All these different places, you can find some awesome things about your area. Now you're getting old enough. You're going to be in what grade?
6.
6th grade. I don't know. Are you interested in this kind of stuff?
Yes.
Oh, okay, she is. She actually told me she's an artist. Can you see how you can be put to work here by making drawings and helping TV productions and all that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Look at this next chart. Arrows, huh? Isn't that exciting? Arrows. When the United States and Canada was covered with the ice sheet, all the animals came south to Florida and Mexico. They came down here because it was a nice place to visit. But then when they got down here, a lot of the animals got separated. You see how that it looks like a tongue hanging down there? It says ice sheet. Can't read it too well, but that's what it says. And that actually kept the animals from going from New York to California. They could not get across the United States because the ice was there. Who cares, right? You have to care. You see, because that is where you're going to find a lot of dead animals. Say, oh. And why are there dead animals? Because when the ice came down, it squished them. Or they froze to death. And then when the ice backed up, ta-da! There were the dead bodies. Gross, huh? Dead animals laying all over the place.
Ew.
Oh, yeah. When you have food, you put it in the refrigerator. Why? Keep it cold.
Yes.
What else? How about the freezer compartment? Why do you put things in there?
Keep it cold.
Keep it cold. What if you put meat in the freezer? Will it keep better?
Yes.
It does. It keeps better. All right. You know, they actually found a giant elephant in northern Russia that it was frozen all this period of time. And when they took it out and unthaw it, they ate the meat. And that was a big woolly mammoth from like before the flood or just after the flood. All right. It'd actually be right after the flood. So the meat was still what you call fresh because it was frozen. All right, let me show you another one. This is a rock from Florida. Have you ever heard the word coral?
Yes.
All right. Coral rock is now becoming very difficult to get because the environmentalists are saying don't tear up the coral reefs. In fact, it's against the law to dig the coral up from the ocean. They don't get happy with that at all. So that's a piece of coral from the Keys. Here's a piece of coral from Michigan. See, it's the same thing. See, we got like circles and holes. Let me tip this up. Circles and holes. Yeah. All right. Now, they're very easy to scratch. So they hand polish these. Whoops. And this is a hand polished coral rock from Michigan. And the city that you find this, for those of you who live in Michigan, would you please send me some? These are the only 2 I have. And maybe we can trade.
Cool.
Not you don't get to trade. But if you know anybody from this part of Michigan, say, hey, I want to trade. The name of the town is called Petoskey, Michigan. Guess what they call the rock? The name of the town. They call it the Petoskey Stone. Wasn't that really scientific? That was really clever, huh? They must have stayed up all night to try and think of the name of that rock. But you find them all along the shoreline of the lake up there, and people pick them up and hand polish them and sell them to the tourists.
Cool.
And they get good money for them. Now, I know you're not from areas where there's too much ocean. You ever heard the word sand dollar?
Yes, I have.
You've heard the word. This is a sand dollar. This is an animal. It lives in the ocean. And that little hole is where his mouth used to be. And he wasn't solid like that because this poor animal has died. He got covered up with sand and he died, right? Say, ah. Aww. And the whole shell became sand, which came to a solid rock. This is what's neat about fossils. Good fossils, you can actually see the shape. That's the actual shape of what the sand dollar used to look like. Who cares, huh? But you see, wouldn't this be nice? You can find these on the beach as you're out here enjoying the sun and all that. You know, I know it's hot, but you get out there and you pick up one of these right off the beach. Take it back, and you got something. Take two. One to trade, one to keep. Right? Because you got, your teacher. You never know who would like something like that. Boy, I'd sure like that. But that's really neat. I sure like that. When they got to trade. Of course, trade comic books or whatever, you know. But a good rock collector would collect and trade rocks. You don't switch off hobbies, you know. Now this one here, they were going to put some boats across a lake, and then they found out the lake wasn't deep enough. So they had to make it deeper. And when they dug up all the dirt and threw it up on the shore, I found this. Look at the awesome shell stuck in there. Isn't that
Cool.
neat? Yeah. And if you were there when they pumped this out and you walked on it, you would lose your sneakers. What does that mean? Mud. Off comes your sneaker. So this was goo. Somebody said goo earlier this evening. So we have all this goo up there. And yet it's a solid rock. Because it was on the shore, it dried out, and we have seashells stuck in the mud. Are the seashells alive? Are they alive?
No.
They're about as dead as they can get. Okay, so a fossil. When you start your fossil collection,
Okay.
you look for either the fossil itself or a print. Okay? So that's it for number 1, and let's get on with 3 more, and we'll show you some more exciting fossils with